The galaxy had long dismissed humanity as a legend, a mere myth whispered among the elder races. Stories told of a ruthless species from a forgotten world, a race so stubborn that even the gods of entropy could not break them. No evidence of their existence remained. No homeworld, no ruins, no records. Just myths of a terrifying force that had once shaped the stars before vanishing into obscurity. For centuries, the Galactic Council had ruled unchallenged, its empires stretching across thousands of worlds. They believed themselves the pinnacle of civilization, their fleets unmatched, their technology supreme. But when the Drek Dominion launched its campaign of conquest, swallowing entire systems in flames, the Council's power began to crack. No one could stop the Drek. No one dared. Until the sky over Zenthera Prime split apart, a rift unlike anything seen before burned through space, tearing reality asunder. From its depths emerged ships unlike any the galaxy had ever known. They were not sleek and elegant like those of the Elvari, nor vast and organic like the Zorathi hive ships. No, these vessels were angular, brutal, and battle-scarred, machines of war forged in the heart of an unseen battlefield. Their hulls bore no insignia. Their weapons crackled with a power that had not been witnessed in millennia. And then, the transmission came. A single message, a voice, deep and resolute, speaking in a language thought lost to time. We are human, and we have returned. The Drek scoffed at the announcement. To them, humanity was a ghost story meant to scare the weak. They believed their own power to be absolute, so they fired the first shot. A Drek warship unleashed its plasma lances, scorching towards the lead human vessel. The blast should have melted through any known shielding, should have reduced the primitive relics to dust. But the human ship did not falter. Its armor absorbed the hit like a beast waking from slumber. And then, it retaliated. The return volley was not a sleek beam of energy, nor an elegant display of technological superiority. It was raw destruction. Kinetic rounds the size of buildings, moving so fast they burned through space itself, slammed into the Drek fleet. Shields meant to withstand the might of the Council shattered like glass. The humans did not wait. They advanced. Their ships moved with terrifying precision, formations tight, movements practiced. They did not waste a single shot. They fought with the cold efficiency of a species that had survived the impossible before. The battle did not last long. The Drek, once unstoppable, found themselves obliterated in mere hours. Their mighty flagships were reduced to floating husks. Their warlords, who had terrorized the stars for centuries, fell silent. And then, as suddenly as they had arrived, the humans spoke again. This galaxy forgot us. You erased our history. You whispered of our end. A pause. You were wrong. Across the stars, empires trembled. The legend of humanity had returned, not as myth, but as reality, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The aftermath of the battle over Zenthara Prime sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Drek Dominion, once an unstoppable force, had been utterly crushed. What was meant to be an easy conquest had turned into a massacre. Their massacre. The Galactic Council, watching from their ivory towers, struggled to comprehend what had just occurred. The legends had spoken of humanity as a brutal but fallen species, one that had burned too brightly and consumed itself in its own wars. Yet here they were, their ships prowling the wreckage, scavenging their defeated foes with a cold efficiency. The humans had not come for diplomacy. They had not arrived seeking allies or forgiveness for their long absence. They had come as conquerors. High Chancellor Vexari of the Elvari Dominion stood in stunned silence as reports poured into the grand hall of the council. The battle had lasted only 4 hours. The Drek Armada, over 1,000 warships strong, had been eradicated. Even the most powerful empires in the Council had never achieved such a swift and decisive victory. Vexari's blood ran cold as she watched the human fleet on the holomap, their warships forming an impenetrable wall in Drek-controlled space. No hails, no diplomatic gestures, just an eerie silence, as if they were waiting for something. "Have we sent a delegation?" one of the counselors, a Zarathi broodlord, rasped. His mandibles clicked nervously, a clear sign of unease. "We attempted," Vexari said, gripping the edges of the table. "They ignored our messages. No response, no threats, nothing." "That silence is worse than any declaration of war," a reptilian counselor from the Zerath Call Syndicate growled. Vexari didn't disagree. Silence was the weapon of predators. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the UHS Retribution, Admiral Elias Varos watched as his fleet finished their sweep of the battlefield. The humans had left nothing salvageable for the enemy. What remained of the Drek fleet was now little more than floating scrap. The ship's AI, designated Omen, projected casualty reports onto his command console. Drek forces eliminated, 98% human casualties, 0.4%. Varos exhaled slowly. "That's too easy," he muttered. "They were supposed to be the apex predators of this sector." Captain Ren Vasquez, standing beside him, smirked. "They thought we were a myth, Admiral. Ghost stories don't usually shoot back." Varos wasn't smiling. They didn't understand what they were facing. Not yet. But they will. A low chime echoed across the bridge. Omen's synthetic voice broke the silence. "We have intercepted Council communications. They are watching. They are afraid." "Good," Varos said. "Let them be afraid. Let them remember." His eyes darkened as he turned toward the viewport, staring into the void where the Council's greatest empires lay. "Prepare the fleet," he commanded. "We're just getting started." For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council was paralyzed by fear. The humans had reappeared like wraiths from the abyss, their warships cutting through the Drek Dominion's armada with an efficiency that defied logic. But it wasn't just their firepower that terrified the Council. It was their silence. No boasts, no threats, no ultimatums. Just the quiet, methodical destruction of anyone who stood in their path. On the Council's capital world, Zyvora, High Chancellor Vexari convened an emergency summit. The Grand Hall, usually a place of calculated politics and quiet diplomacy, was now filled with whispers of dread. Every empire had sent a representative. Even the Zorathi swarm, notorious for their disdain of the Council, had joined the gathering. A massive holographic projection displayed the latest reports. The humans hadn't stopped at the Drek Armada. They were systematically dismantling the Dominion's empire, station by station, world by world. The Drek, once feared as brutal conquerors, were now little more than prey. "This is a crisis unlike any other," Vexari said, her silver eyes scanning the room. "The humans are no longer myths. They are real, and they are advancing." A Zarathkal general clicked his claws against the stone table. "Have they made any attempt to communicate?" A tense pause followed before one of the Elvery envoys, a deep blue-skinned diplomat named Kael'Theris, shook his head. "Nothing. They don't negotiate, they don't respond, they only act." A Zorathi broodmother let out a sharp chitter. "Then they are no different than the Drek. We should unite and exterminate them before they become unstoppable." Vexari's jaw tightened. How arrogant. The Zorathi had always believed in brute force, but even they should have recognized the futility of such a plan. "You misunderstand," she said. "We do not face a mindless swarm or a warlord's ambition. We face something else entirely." The room fell silent as she gestured to the next report. The holographic display shifted, revealing grainy footage of a captured human transmission. It had been intercepted from a human ship, one of the few pieces of intel they had managed to obtain. A voice, deep and calm, filled the chamber. "We do not seek war, but we will not be forgotten." Then the screen changed again, this time showing a planet the humans had recently taken from the Drek. Instead of the expected mass slaughter, something far more chilling was unfolding. The humans were rebuilding. Factories roared to life under their control. Orbital defenses were being reconstructed. Even the local populace, many of whom had been subjugated by the Drek, were left unharmed. "This," Kael'theris muttered, staring at the image in disbelief. "This is not the work of conquerors. This is the work of an empire," Vexari finished. "A species that never died. A species that is reclaiming what it lost." The realization settled over the council like a shroud. The humans had not returned for vengeance. They had returned to rule. Far beyond the council chambers, aboard the UHS Retribution, Admiral Elias Varos watched as the planet below, once a Drek stronghold, was brought under human control. His officers worked efficiently, their movements precise, their faces hardened with the knowledge that they were carrying out something far greater than a simple campaign. This was their legacy. The galaxy had cast humanity aside, erased their history, and moved on. That mistake would not be repeated. A soft chime from the console broke his thoughts. The fleet had intercepted another transmission from the council. This one was urgent, a request for peace talks. Varos exhaled slowly, a grim smile touching his lips. "They finally understand," he murmured. Captain Vasquez raised an eyebrow. "What now, Admiral? Do we negotiate?" Varos turned to face his officers, his voice steady. "Not yet." He looked back at the viewport, where the rest of the fleet loomed, their weapons gleaming in the cold void. "First," he said, "we make them remember who we are." The Galactic Council's message requesting peace talks had gone unanswered. Days passed, then weeks. Silence was all they received in return. Yet the humans did not strike. They did not invade Council worlds, nor did they make demands. They simply continued their methodical dismantling of the Drek Dominion, taking system after system with brutal efficiency. The Drek, who had once terrorized the stars, were now running, scattering like insects before an oncoming fire. It was not a war, it was an eradication. The Council had never seen anything like it. Wars in the past had always been drawn-out affairs, fueled by politics, fragile alliances, and resource struggles. The humans, however, fought differently. There were no prolonged sieges, no half measures. Each battle was swift, decisive. They advanced like a force of nature, unstoppable, inevitable. Vexari, High Chancellor of the Council, could feel the weight of history pressing down on her as she reviewed the latest reports. Drek-controlled worlds taken, 42 Drek warships destroyed, 2,136 human fleet losses. Minimal, and now something even more terrifying. The Drek homeworld, Karvok 6, was under siege. It had taken the humans less than a month to do what the entire Council had failed to accomplish in centuries. "They are executing them," a Zarathi broodlord hissed from across the Council chamber. His mandibles twitched in unease. Every Drek warlord, every officer, wiped out without trial. And yet, Kael'theris, the Elvery diplomat, murmured, "They do not harm civilians. They do not pillage." The room fell silent as the realization settled. The humans were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They were something far worse. They were erasing an enemy from history itself. "They must be stopped," the Zarathkal general growled. "If they could do this to the Drek, they could do it to any of us." "Then perhaps," Vexari said slowly. "We should stop thinking of them as a threat and start thinking of them as something else." The council turned to her, confusion evident in their expressions. She inhaled sharply, then made her decision. "I will go to them myself." A hushed murmur filled the chamber. "You would go to them?" The Zorathi representative spat. "To monsters who have ignored every attempt at diplomacy?" "They are not monsters," Vexari said. "They are survivors, and if we do not understand them, we will all fall to them." Aboard the UHS Retribution, Admiral Elias Varos stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the battle unfold on Karvok 6. The Drek homeworld burned beneath them, its once mighty defenses crumbling. They had refused to surrender, so the humans had given them extinction. But as his officers monitored the final phase of the assault, a new signal appeared on the comms. "Admiral," Captain Vasquez said, eyes widening, "we're receiving a direct transmission." Varos frowned. "Drek resistance?" "No." Vasquez swallowed. "It's from the Galactic Council, and it's not just another request." Varos turned to face him fully. "They're sending an envoy." Silence filled the bridge. The humans had ignored every attempt at diplomacy thus far, but now the Council was desperate enough to send someone directly. Varos exhaled slowly, considering the implications. Finally he nodded. "Let them come," he said. His gaze drifted back to the dying world below. "But they won't find the same galaxy they left behind." The Galactic Council's envoy arrived under heavy escort. A lone diplomatic vessel, adorned with the sigil of the Council, exited hyperspace near the human fleet. It was a sleek and elegant craft, designed not for war, but for peace. It drifted cautiously through the void, dwarfed by the immense warships of the UHS Retribution and its armada. Inside, High Chancellor Vexari sat rigid in her chair, her fingers tightening around the armrests. This was madness. Suicide, some had called it. No alien had ever stood before a human in known history, not in diplomatic matters, not in war. And yet, here she was. The humans did not fire upon her ship. They did not acknowledge her arrival with hostility. Instead, a single transmission crackled through the comms. "Docking sequence authorized. You may proceed." The voice was cold, calculated, a warrior's voice. Vexari's second-in-command, a silver-skinned Elvari named Reelan, shifted uneasily beside her. "We should be prepared for an ambush. If they wanted us dead, we wouldn't have made it this far," she replied. The docking process was seamless, almost too precise. As the ship latched onto the human vessel, a hiss of decompression signaled the opening of the airlock. Then, the humans appeared. A squad of soldiers clad in black and gray armor, helmets concealing their faces, moved with perfect discipline. Their weapons were at their sides, but Vexari could feel the tension in the air. These were warriors, hardened, efficient, and ready to kill at a moment's notice. At their center stood a man she knew only by reputation, Admiral Elias Varos. His presence was like gravity itself, an unseen force pressing down on the room. His uniform bore no medals, no ostentatious display of rank, just a single insignia on his shoulder, the sigil of the United Human Systems. His gaze locked onto hers, assessing, cold, unreadable. Then he spoke. "You asked for a meeting. Here we are." His voice was devoid of warmth. It was not welcoming, nor overtly hostile. It simply was. Vexari inhaled sharply and stepped forward. "I am High Chancellor Vexari, representing the Galactic Council." Varos didn't blink. "I know who you are." Her throat tightened. Negotiating with other empires had always been a delicate balance of charm, persuasion, and carefully measured words. But something told her none of that would work here. Then you know why I've come. Varro studied her for a moment before turning sharply. Walk with me. She hesitated only briefly before following. As they moved through the Retribution's corridors, Vexari took in her surroundings. Everything was practical, efficient, nothing wasted on aesthetics.